I'm Hedin Daubenspeck, author of Pony Ride to an Awakening. I have a guest with me today, Culliver Brookman, retired Unity minister, 40 years of service. We want to capture some of her stories. Culliver,
Hi, Dean.
40 years, you're a pioneer.
I know. That's why I went to the urban ministerial school initially rather than Unity Village so that I could pioneer a church
Where was the urban school?
in Detroit.
So you started your seminary in Detroit?
Yes.
And,
Left Kansas City, actually.
and you left Kansas City and went to Detroit. Now, you were telling me that you ministered 3 churches while you were a student in seminary.
Right.
You must have been an amazing student.
I was a pretty good student. Yep.
Was the idea of ministry something you'd been thinking about for a while?
No. When I received the message or the understanding that I was going to be a minister, frankly, I didn't believe it. I didn't think that I had the persona to be the kind of ministers that I had seen. So I went for counseling, to actually Joan Putoff, a former nun, Mother Superior, and she was a transactional analysis counselor. I'm okay, you're okay. And she said, basically without, she said, I would never question anyone's calling. And then she told me the story of Gandhi that ended with, one of the things you must remember to do is never tell anyone to do anything you haven't already done. So that's why I had a lot of practice, because I really didn't feel that I had the persona to be a minister. However, it turns out I did.
Well, you told me an interesting story about your childhood being introduced to one of the Unity magazines that
Right.
really, in the early development years of your life, you were provided quite a bit of Unity information.
From the time I was just turned 5 and until I was 12, I read it cover to cover. And of course, cut out the paper dolls.
What was it called?
We Wisdom.
We Wisdom.
And, they had a Montessori school, We Wisdom Montessori School at Unity Village.
It sounds like you were made for Unity since a young child. Well, Culliver, in your years of service, you've developed an idea or two about God, consciousness, manifesting. I'd like for you to share with us some of your ideas on how we might think of God. I know that I grew up in the traditional Protestant church, and as a young child, my idea of God is he's up in the sky somewhere. And then I transitioned in life, especially in my early 20s. I discovered Unity in 1972. Give us some of your ideas on how we might think of God in a more expanded way than is typically presented in the traditional church.
These were ideas I came to Unity with, these concepts, the metaphysics I came to Unity with, and I found that many, many people who come to Unity for a while began to say, I found the church that was teaching what I already knew was true. And that was pretty much my situation. It was a shock. I should mention that I called the minister. I went to church there on Sunday morning with a friend, and I called him back on Monday morning which I kind of like for ministers to show up on on Monday morning, and so if you have any questions, you can ask them. And I said, I did not hear anything about the devil, about original sin, or that we are sinful and unclean. And he said, well, no, we don't believe that. So it was like, oh, breath of fresh air. So I said, well, so tell me this. You believe in reincarnation? And he said, well, it's not one of our basic principles, but it's so logical that most of us do. And it was like, I've come home.
You found home.
I've come home.
I graduated from the University of Oklahoma in 1972, and I moved to Houston, Texas. And shortly thereafter, on the radio on Sunday morning, I heard a Unity minister by the name of Rankin.
Ooh, John Rankin.
And I couldn't believe my ears.
Me either.
The man
Yeah.
was speaking exactly what I felt in my heart, and I'd never heard any person speak this way. And so
Yeah.
I was immediately attracted to Unity.
Well, yeah, I too love John Rankin. Beautiful, brilliant man. Yeah.
Well, in Houston, they started the Unity Pyramid. And that's what
right.
the Unity Church of Houston's known for, is the pyramid.
That's right.
Well, Culliver, let's expand our conversation about the divine.
Okay. Let's look at the basic unity metaphysics, which would be, what is God? Who are we? And what is the relationship between the two?
That's a good place to start.
Okay. So what is God is, of course, God is spirit. God is energy. God is made up of energy. God is everywhere present as energy, in everything, in, of, and through everything, as well as in this space in between.
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent, that's right. One of the New Thought teachers was Emmett Fox, and he said, there is no place where God is not. And that's the same, there's no place where energy is not, So we have come to the awareness that God is energy, and of course God is love. Universal, unconditional, pure, perfect love. And God expresses in two ways. One way is called transcendent. And in transcendence, meaning that God is everywhere present, and as energy, and that that is the expression of God, everywhere present. There's no place where God is not. But the other way that God expresses is it's called eminent, or within. That God is within us as 24/7, as an ever-present, with the will, ever-presence, as a will for our life, that we accept, express, and experience our highest good. And we are always having that will and that pure, perfect, divine love accessed constantly, whether we know it or not. And we can bring it into conversation. We can open for divine direction, divine ideas. We call that manifestation, actually. But that is the essence of the everywhere present and God within, is really how we see God, or the absolute. And then how do we see ourselves? So we see ourselves as spirit, soul, and body. Spirit being, of course, the energy of God that is within us. Soul is our personality, and it also carries. If one believes in a divine idea, not everyone does, but if one believes in the divine idea, then this is where the person, what we have chosen to experience, what we have chosen to contribute, how we have chosen to make a difference, is and we enter into this incarnation then perfectly designed to contribute in the way that has meaning to our heart. So let's see, that spirit God, so that soul, and the body is the vehicle that carries the spirit and the soul. But only the soul, only the spirit is eternal.
Is this a unity understanding, or is it also your own personal
Oh,
understanding?
totally. Yes, it's a unity understanding, and my personal understanding totally agrees with it.
It's quite different than the indoctrination that I received, growing up on the farm at the local church. But it resonates with the inner part of me that understood that I was one with the universe as a child on the farm, one with nature.
Sure.
And it resonates with me as that God is always present and that God is within me. In that way, unity has always resonated with me.
I know. We just learned a language. You just learned how to articulate what we already knew.
Well, that's exactly what I knew
Mm-hmm. Yep.
as a young child on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
You might call it common sense.
One might. One might. I think that some of us did kind of come. Well, I'm kind of excited about all the people who are on the planet at this point because when there's a shift in the age, the 2,000-year-old age, of Pisces is shifting now to the energy of 2,000 years of Aquarius. That shift is not an easy experience to live through because you have the energy of two different styles of energy, two different purposes. And so here we are, so I think that we kind of got a leg up maybe coming in because this is it's a very profound time.
Culliver, you told me something about a change in how humanity understands God that
Oh,
happened during the World War II.
just after.
It was a profound change in man's understanding. Would you share that with us?
Yeah. Um, First of all, I, of course, grew, well, we all, prior to 1946, we all grew up with God as an old man up in the sky somewhere between 11 and 1 o'clock in infinity. And so a lot of rules and a lot of very, well, there was the devil involved, heaven and hell, and punishment was hell, eternal punishment, and devil wandering around, trying to entice our souls. That was pretty much all of Christianity's belief and teaching. Now we were coming into the new age. We were coming from the Piscean to. And usually we think of that, well, that's going to happen in the year 2000. but it didn't. It actually happened in 1946 when we split the atom. That is when the energy shifted. So prior to that time, and then when we learned about energy through the splitting of the atom, you may remember about 64 or 5, the Time magazine had on their cover black outline saying God is dead. And so when I bought it out of the grocery store, I bought it, took it home, and it said that concept of God as an old man up in the sky is dead. From the point at which we split the atom, we can't buy that anymore. We can't buy that old man living up somewhere. I mean, we've been to where heaven was supposed to be. We've been to where hell is supposed to be. It's not there. And people began looking at or talking about, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. They weren't buying spirituality, or they were living spirituality but not buying the religion. You know, George Carlin said something that I thought was kind of interesting. He said, the people are leaving the churches in droves and turning to God.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that too. So at that point, we began seeing God as at more. What does that mean, that God is energy? But that, that's coming out of science, and unity has always been compatible with science, always.
Would would that new perspective include consciousness as a divine aspect?
Well, consciousness has always been a part of New Thought. It's a reality of New Thought. It's a principle of New Thought. So, for sure, and it didn't change that much. In the idea of the old man up in the sky, it did not change that much when we moved into more inclined toward God as co-creating with God, rather than we keep shifting our relationship with God, and the idea that we are co-creators, and then God had become a part of our awareness of how we were connected. And yes, do you want to talk about consciousness?
Well, before we talk about consciousness, what we've been talking about privately is another change in our concept of God that's occurred as a result of science and in the 20th century quantum mechanics.
Exactly. Quantum physics.
I mean, quantum physics. So we've made a series of steps. So we've gone from God as creator to now God and ourselves as co-creators. And then with quantum physics, where are we now?
I believe that when you're talking about consciousness, when you mention consciousness, consciousness has various layers, and what we've been working on with our study, our practice, our reading, and we've come to we practice in order to raise our level of consciousness from a life is hard and then you die kind of level of consciousness. We can go into consciousness a little more, how it is determined, but where we always want to go is to that level of consciousness we call the Christ consciousness. And so when we're looking at how do we, so the demonstration part and the healing part of that goes on contributes to it. But I believe that what will actually make the quantum leap into that Christ consciousness is our total, complete, and absolute awareness that we are one with God. Totally, absolutely one with God, one with all life, one with all life. Since God is everywhere present, in, of, and through everything, how can we be one with God and not be one with all life? So, namaste, the idea of namaste, I behold the Christ in you, I behold the God in you, and everything else. Most of us who have dogs already have a kind of a sense of I'm one with this, I'm one with this, with Rufus, my beautiful dog. We already understand how that divine love is easily shared back and forth. So, but in my opinion, you cannot be one with God and not one with everything, because God is expressing, God is the energy that expresses through everything. So we have to have that open heart. We have to have that realization.
Culliver, let's revisit consciousness and the levels of consciousness. Would you tell us your view?
I suspect it's Unity's view as well. Consciousness, our level of consciousness is the sum total of how we think, how we feel, what we believe, what our belief is, what did I say our worldview? Our worldview.
Our worldview.
Okay. So each of those aspects has energy. Our anger has energy. Our peace has energy. I mean, everything that we hold in mind has an energy about it, and that energy is in vibration. And that vibration is, as we change or heal that is within us, our vibration changes, our level of consciousness changes.
So, in healing ourselves and expanding our knowledge, we increase our vibration.
Exactly.
And we expand our consciousness. And we
Exactly.
achieve higher consciousness.
Exactly. And we draw to us people of compatible vibration, like attracts like.
Like attracts like. So if you're broken, you're going to attract broken.
Yes.
And if you're at a high vibration, you will attract someone of a high vibration.
Yes. Exactly. So, uh, so that's our individual consciousness. And then when you put everybody and their mix of consciousness together, it's called the collective consciousness. And we will see things happen as a result of wherever the collective consciousness is coming from. If it's coming from rage and anger and competition, we will probably see war. And if it's coming of connection and cooperation and support and community for each other, we'll probably see peace. It's a reflection of whatever the collective consciousness is.
Was it Carl Jung that talked about the archetypes and the idea of another level of consciousness?
Yes, I was thinking for a moment you were talking about Joseph Campbell, but yeah, you're right.
About the subconscious.
Right.
Would you talk to us about the subconscious?
We have the conscious mind, intellect, intuition. We think and we feel in the conscious mind. So when we have an agreement between the thinking and the feeling, it is embraced in the subconscious as our truth. We manifest out of the subconscious. So much of what we have in the subconscious that we talk about clearing or cleansing or healing the subconscious happened prior to maybe 7 years old. Up until that time, there's a lot of things we really do not have the mental capacity to understand what was happening. We really don't have that. So what we're looking at is clearing out our mistaken judgments, our mistaken perceptions, our error thinking. We're talking about clearing that out because, none of us at age 20, 30, or 40 can believe that we went there when we were 5 or 6 years old that set us on a path. But a lot of us did get a lot of conversation. We were told we were never going to amount to anything. We were told we were never going to be anybody. We were told that we never did anything right. Loser.
So we have to unlearn some of our early childhood defense mechanisms and early childhood things that were said about us as our own self-healing, so that our truth and our subconscious mind gets in alignment with healthy living.
I would say rather than unlearn, that's a good word, but I would say heal.
Heal.
And make a quantum shift from what's driving us at a subconscious level to actually recognizing the magnificence that we are.
Well, I've always read esoteric books for an hour or 2 hours every night, putting good, truthful, positive information into my mind on a daily basis. And it seems that from the subconscious, it guides our actions every day. I felt like that was a good practice.
Meditation is also a good practice.
And meditation, even with meditation, you can go beyond the subconscious.
To the Christ consciousness.
To the superconsciousness.
Superconscious. I've begun calling it the cosmic consciousness.
That's a good word.
I like that.
And I like Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
But
that's available to us. That's a part of who we are. Conscious, subconscious, superconscious.
I practiced.
And you know where that's located?
No.
In all the cells of the body.
And every cell. I practice 24-hour-a-day meditation, 24-hour-a-day mindfulness. I like to have the connection with the consciousness, the subconscious, and the superconscious on a continuous continuous basis. It's how I live my life.
That's what that's what we have come to do. That's why we're here.
Buddha, he was not about making Buddhists.
He was not.
The Christ was about making Christ. He was not about making Christians.
Yeah, your full expression.
The full being of his teachings becoming the Christ consciousness.
Becoming who you already are.
Becoming our true self.
Our true self, exactly.